Captain Drez Vornax of the Kre'Lax Marauder vessel Profit Margin flicked his upper right eye stalk toward the main view screen, letting the other three swing lazily around the bridge. His scaled fingers tapped against the command chair's armrest in a rhythm that his crew recognized as dangerous excitement. The kind that preceded either a spectacular raid or a spectacular disaster. "Tell me again what our scanners picked up, Officer Kre'Lax," Drez said, his voice a gravelly purr that belied the 6 rows of needle-sharp teeth hidden behind his lipless mouth. Kre'Lax, a nervous Kre'Lax with mismatched eye colors who operated the sensor array, swallowed audibly. "A human cargo vessel, Captain. Class 4 hauler, traveling alone through the Cygnus Trade Corridor." "Traveling alone," Drez repeated, emphasizing each syllable as though tasting a fine delicacy. "And you're absolutely certain of this?" "Yes, Captain. No escort ships within 3 light minutes. The vessel is designated Solitary Wanderer, Human Registry, Earth-Mars Trading Coalition." Drez rose from his command chair, his 7-foot frame unfolding like a predatory insect. The overhead lights gleamed off his exoskeletal ridge plates as he approached the tactical display. Around him, the 12-member bridge crew pretended to focus intently on their stations while sneaking glances at their captain. "Remind me, Lieutenant Pex, what do we know about human shipping practices?" Drez asked, addressing his tactical officer without looking at her. Lieutenant Pex straightened her posture, her dorsal spines flaring slightly with pride at being singled out. "Humans are the only species in the galactic consortium that consistently send cargo vessels without military escorts, Captain. It's been this way since they joined Interstellar Society 43 cycles ago." "And why is that?" Drez's voice was deceptively casual. "Unknown, sir. Some theorize it's arrogance, others suggest economic constraints. The Galactic Security Council has repeatedly advised against the practice, but humans insist on maintaining it. They've lost 17% fewer ships to raiders than other species, which they attribute to their unconventional security measures." Drez barked a laugh that made several crew members flinch. "Unconventional security measures. What a delightfully vague term. In my 30 cycles of commanding this vessel, we've never captured a human ship. Not for lack of trying, mind you." He turned to address the entire bridge. The last 3 Kre'Lax captains who attempted to raid human vessels disappeared without a trace. Vanished. Poof. He mimicked an explosion with his hands. "The consortium classified it as occupational hazards. But I, my dear crew, am not those captains." A nervous murmur rippled through the bridge. Drez silenced it with a glare. "Navigation, set intercept course. Weapons, power up disabling arrays non-lethal only. I want that cargo intact and that ship functional. Boarding teams Alpha and Beta. Prepare for deployment. Remember our code, Rich. Not dead." As the crew scrambled to execute his orders, Drez returned to his command chair, settling his bulk comfortably. He pulled up the human vessel's specifications on his personal display. The Solitary Wanderer looked disappointingly ordinary, a rectangular main hull with cylindrical propulsion units, standard cargo containers arranged in neat rows along its underbelly. Its defensive capabilities appeared minimal: basic deflector shields, a point defense laser system too weak to trouble the Profit Margin, and emergency thrusters for evasive maneuvers that a Kre'Lax infant could outpace. "Time to intercept?" Drez asked. 17 minutes, Captain," replied the navigation officer. "Perfect. Just enough time for a pre-plunder refreshment." Drez pressed a button on his chair, and a compartment opened, revealing a bottle of blue liquid. The authentic Terran Kentucky bourbon. "Cost me 3,000 credits on the black market. I've been saving it for a special occasion." He poured a measure into a metallic cup. "Today, we finally cracked the human mystery. Why do their ships travel alone? What are these unconventional security measures? And most importantly," he raised his cup in a toast, "what valuable cargo might they be carrying?" The view screen showed the Solitary Wanderer growing larger as they approached. Drez noticed something odd: the human ship hadn't altered course or increased speed. According to protocol, they should have received an automated distress signal by now, warning them to back off or face consequences. But the human vessel maintained its steady pace, as though unaware or unconcerned about the approaching raiders. Captain Kletch called out, confusion evident in his voice. They're hailing us. Drez nearly choked on his bourbon. They're what? The human vessel is initiating communication. Drez wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. This is unexpected. Put them through. The view screen flickered, and a human face appeared pink-skinned, with facial hair around the mouth and remarkably calm blue eyes. Hello there, said the human, with what Drez recognized as a smile. This is Captain Jack Murphy of the Earth vessel Solitary Wanderer. I couldn't help but notice you're on an intercept course. Anything I can help you folks with today? Drez blinked all 4 eye stalks in rapid succession, a Kre'Lax expression of profound confusion. The human Captain Murphy was smiling at him, like they were old friends meeting for lunch rather than predator confronting prey. Is this some kind of joke? Drez finally managed, straightening his posture to display his intimidating height. Your vessel is about to be boarded by the most feared raiders in 3 sectors. I am Captain Drez Vornax of the Profit Margin, and I— Oh, I know exactly who you are, Murphy interrupted cheerfully. Your reputation precedes you. 17 successful raids in the last stellar quarter alone. Very impressive. Lieutenant Pex leaned toward Drez and whispered, Captain, this isn't standard victim behavior. You don't say, Drez muttered before addressing the screen again. Captain Murphy, you seem remarkably calm for someone about to lose their cargo and possibly their ship. Murphy shrugged. Well, no sense getting worked up about things, is there? Look, your boarding is inevitable. I've got a shipment of Martian whiskey, Venusian silk, and about 2 tons of Earth chocolate that you're welcome to. But maybe we could keep this civilized? I'll unlock the main airlock for you. No need for cutting tools or forced entry. Saves time for everyone. Drez narrowed his dominant eye stalk. And why would you do that? Because damaged airlocks are expensive to repair, and I've got a schedule to keep. Murphy checked something off screen. Plus, I'm just one guy with a small crew. I'm not about to engage in heroics against armed raiders. This was unprecedented. Drez had raided over 300 vessels in his career. Typical responses involved panicked screaming, begging, threats of retribution from home governments, or stoic resignation, and never casual hospitality. Fine, Drez decided. We'll dock at your airlock, but this is still a raid, not a social call. Of course, of course. See you shortly. Murphy's image disappeared. 20 minutes later, Drez led boarding Team Alpha through the Solitary Wanderer's main airlock. 8 Kre'Lax warriors, armed with plasma rifles and neural disruptors, moved in practiced formation through the sterile white corridor. Except there was no resistance to practice against. Captain Murphy stood alone at the end of the entry hall, hands casually tucked into the pockets of his blue jumpsuit. No weapons. No security drones. Not even a threatening stance. Welcome aboard, Murphy said. Mind the step there, artificial gravity transition can be a bit wobbly. Drez gestured for his troops to aim their weapons at Murphy. Where's the rest of your crew? Oh, minimal staffing today. Most systems are automated. Murphy gestured toward a doorway. Cargo manifest is in my office if you'd like to review it before selecting what to take. I recommend the chocolate big seller in the Rigelian markets this season. As they followed Murphy through oddly winding corridors, Drez noticed several peculiarities about the ship. Doorways were strangely reinforced yet unmarked. Random sections of wall appeared thicker than necessary. And was it his imagination, or were there far more maintenance hatches than a vessel this size required? Your ship has an unusual layout, Drez observed. Human design. Murphy replied with another shrug. We're an odd bunch. Coffee? He stopped at what appeared to be a small galley. No, Drez snapped. Take us to your cargo holds. Sure. Just thought I'd offer. It's been a long day. Murphy tapped a sequence on a wall panel. Cargo Bay 3 is closest. That's where the chocolate is. As they entered a large storage area filled with neatly stacked crates, team leader Grax approached Drez. Captain, Grax whispered, we've tagged the high-value items. But something doesn't feel right. Where are the security systems? Even merchant vessels have basic countermeasures. Drez nodded slowly. And why is the human so accommodating? It's almost as if... A loud click echoed through the cargo bay as the doors sealed shut behind them. He wanted us in here, Drez finished. Captain Murphy smiled apologetically. So, gentlemen, about those unconventional security measures I believe you were curious about. You've heard of Murphy's Law, I presume? Captain Murphy asked conversationally as he strolled over to what appeared to be a small bar cart in the corner of the cargo bay. The sealed doors behind them gave an additional mechanical click as secondary locks engaged. Drez's eye stalk swiveled in 4 different directions, scanning for threats. What are you doing? Open these doors immediately. Murphy's Law. The human continued, ignoring the demand as he poured amber liquid into small glasses. It's an old Earth saying, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Fascinating philosophical concept, really. Speaks to the inherent chaos of the universe. He offered a glass to Drez, who ignored it. Suit yourself. More for me. Team leader Kre'Lax raised his plasma rifle. Captain Vornax asked you to open the doors. Did he? Must have missed that with all the eye stalk swiveling. Murphy took a sip of his drink. Here's the thing about cargo bays on human vessels. They're designed to contain explosive decompression in case of hull breach. Means they're pretty good at containing, well, lots of things. Drez nodded sharply to his team. Breach the door. 2 raiders approached the sealed entrance, attaching small-shaped charges to the frame. Murphy watched with mild interest, leaning against a cargo container. 3, 2, 1. The raider triggered the detonator. Nothing happened. Dose. Said Murphy. That's weird. Those are Mark 7 plasma cutters from the Andromeda shipyards, right? Good stuff. Should have worked. He tapped his chin thoughtfully. Unless, of course, the atmosphere in this room has been subtly altered to contain non-reactive noble gases that neutralize plasma ignition. But what are the odds of that? Drez's scales darkened with anger. What game are you playing, human? No game. Just cargo transportation, with, reasonable precautions. Murphy finished his drink. Try shooting the door. That sometimes works in the holovids. One of the raiders fired his rifle at the door. The plasma bolt ricocheted wildly around the room, causing the Kre'Lax to dive for cover. It finally struck a small device on the ceiling that no one had noticed before. Ooh, you found the defense suppression node. Bad luck there. Murphy winced as the lights flickered, and a gentle hum began to fill the room. That's going to complicate things. From hidden compartments in the walls, ceiling, and even floor, dozens of small spherical drones emerged, each about the size of a human fist. They hovered in formation, blinking with tiny red lights. Security Protocol Alpha 7 activated, announced a pleasant female voice from everywhere and nowhere. The unauthorized weapons discharge detected. Deploying countermeasures. What are those things? Kre'Lax demanded, aiming his weapon at the nearest drone. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Murphy suggested, casually sliding behind a reinforced container. Kre'Lax fired anyway. The drone absorbed the blast and split into 2 identical spheres. Right, so those are self-replicating containment drones, Murphy explained as the raiders watched in horror. Non-lethal, technically speaking. They're designed to, well, see for yourself. The drones swooped down. Each targeted a raider, emitting a pale blue field that encased the Kre'Lax in a shimmering bubble of energy. Within seconds, 7 of the 8 raiders were suspended 3 feet off the ground, trapped in individual force fields. Drez, the only one who had managed to dodge the initial wave, fired wildly at the remaining drones. Each shot only created more drones until he was facing an army of floating orbs. This is insanity, he shouted. What kind of cargo ship is this? A human one? Murphy replied simply. You folks really should pay more attention at the Galactic Security Council meetings. We explained all this. With a growl of frustration, Drez lunged at Murphy only to find himself flipped over and pinned to the ground by hidden mechanical arms that emerged from what he had thought was solid flooring. Ah, yes, I should mention, Murphy said, looking down at the immobilized captain. I used to be in Terran Special Forces before taking this cushy cargo job. The ship's AI just needed my biometric confirmation before activating the more hands-on defenses. Your military? Drez gasped, struggling against the restraints. Retired. Technically, this is a civilian vessel. Murphy knelt beside him. But here's a little secret: all human ships are designed by the same engineers who build our warships. Economy of scale. You understand? Around them, the captured raiders floated helplessly in their containment fields. One had turned an interesting shade of green and appeared to be getting seasick despite the lack of actual motion. The computer, Murphy called out, "Activate protocol hospitality, please." The floor beneath Drez reconfigured, the mechanical arms reshaping into something resembling a highly secure chair, with him firmly attached to it. "So here's our situation," Murphy said, pulling up his own chair. "You're trapped on my ship. Your boarding team is contained. And right about now, your vessel is receiving an automated message explaining that any aggressive action will result in, let's say, an energetic disassembly of any Kre'Lax life signs aboard the solitary wanderer." "You're bluffing," Drez spat. "Humans don't engage in such tactics. The consortium would." "The consortium," Murphy interrupted, "gave us full authorization for defensive measures after the Proxima Colony massacre. You remember that? When the Vex Core raiders killed 3,000 civilians." Drez fell silent. "Here's another bit of human wisdom for you," Murphy continued. "It's called speak softly and carry a big stick. We travel alone not because we're arrogant or cheap. Captain Vornax, we travel alone because we don't need escorts." "Ooh." He gestured around at the now transformed cargo bay, which increasingly resembled a high-security brig. "We are the escorts." "Let me tell you something about humans," Murphy said, propping his feet up on a conveniently extended footrest that had morphed from the floor. "We're not the strongest species in the galaxy, and not the fastest. Definitely not the prettiest, if those dating app statistics from the galactic hub are to be believed." Drez glared silently from his restraint chair, all four eye stalks focused intently on the human. The rest of his crew floated nearby in their containment fields, expressions ranging from terrified to furious. "But we are, without a doubt, the most paranoid species ever to achieve spaceflight." Murphy gestured expansively. "Do you know why? Our homeworld tried to kill us for millions of years. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, you name it. By the time we reached the stars, we developed what xenopsychologists call aggressive preparedness syndrome. A holographic display activated above them, showing footage from what appeared to be a galactic consortium security meeting. This was 3 decades ago, Murphy explained, when humans first applied to join interstellar society. The hologram showed a prim, tentacled alien addressing a chamber of diverse species. The human delegate has submitted their standard ship designs for approval. We find these specifications concerning. Another alien, insectoid and glittering, chittered in response. 17 redundant systems? Triple-layered hull with regenerative capabilities? And what's this about emergency conversion protocols? The view shifted to show a human representative smiling politely. Standard safety features for uncertain environments. "Safety features?" The first alien exclaimed. "Your cargo ships have more defensive capabilities than our military escorts." "But better to have and not need," the human replied with a shrug, "than need and not have." Murphy switched off the display. "They approved our designs eventually. Had to. Turns out paranoid engineers build really good ships, but they made us agree to certain restrictions." Drez finally found his voice. "What restrictions?" "Human vessels must travel alone," Murphy said, counting on his fingers. "No convoys of death traps allowed, no unprovoked aggression. And defensive measures must be, technically speaking, non-lethal." He winked. "Though non-lethal leaves quite a bit of room for interpretation." As if on cue, one of the drones hovering near a particularly agitated raider emitted a soft pulse. The Kre'Lax immediately went limp, snoring loudly. "Nap time for Critch," Murphy observed. He seemed stressed. Drez struggled against his restraints. This is abduction. Unlawful detention. The Kre'Lax hegemony will. Will what? Murphy interrupted. Admit they endorsed unauthorized raids on trading vessels, to file a formal complaint that the pirates were treated inhospitably. He leaned forward. This incident never happened, Captain. In about 6 hours, your ship will receive instructions for retrieving your crew. You'll all sign non-disclosure agreements, your navigation data will be wiped, and you'll be sent on your way with a warning. A warning? Human ships travel alone for a reason, Murphy said simply. And now you know why. A holographic interface appeared before Murphy, displaying ship schematics and alert indicators. Speaking of your ship, it appears they're preparing to fire on us. Not very sporting. He touched a series of controls. The cargo bay hummed with power. What did you just do? Drez demanded, alarm evident in his voice. Deployed a localized EMP burst. Non-destructive, just enough to knock out their weapons systems and propulsion temporarily. Murphy smiled. See? Non-lethal. On the display. The Kre'Lax vessel drifted powerlessly. And my ship. Drez exclaimed. My crew will be fine in about 3 hours when systems reset, Murphy assured him. Plenty of time for us to have a nice chat about galactic maritime law, the economics of piracy, and why targeting human vessels is, statistically speaking, the worst business decision in the known universe. Murphy pulled out what appeared to be a small black rectangle. But first, let me show you something quite special from Earth culture. We call it a PowerPoint presentation. This one's titled Mistakes Were Made, a comprehensive analysis of failed raids on human ships, 2157 to 2219. Drez's scales paled as the first slide appeared, showing the grisly aftermath of an attempted boarding. Don't worry, Murphy said cheerfully. We'll skip the graphic parts. I'm just setting the stage for our next discussion. Which is? Drez asked weakly. Here are alternatives for reformed space pirates. The consortium is always hiring. Drez Vornax was not a captain who accepted defeat easily. 23 successful years as a raider had taught him that every trap had a weakness, every system a vulnerability. So when the human Murphy left to fetch refreshments, leaving only the hovering drones and what appeared to be a small maintenance robot to guard them, Drez began systematically testing his restraints. PSTs. Grax, he whispered to his team leader, still suspended in a containment field nearby. Can you move at all? Barely, Captain, Grax replied. Just my eyes and mouth. But I've noticed something: the fields flicker when the ship's lighting dims. Drez had noticed it too. Every 108 seconds, the cargo bay lights dipped almost imperceptibly, likely a power cycling pattern, as energy was redistributed through the ship's systems. On the next flicker, everyone push against your restraints simultaneously, Drez ordered. 3, 2, 1. The lights dimmed. 8 Kre'Lax strained against their bonds. Nothing happened. Worth a try, Drez muttered. The maintenance robot, which had been quietly organizing tools in the corner, rolled over to Drez's chair. It looked like a metallic bucket on wheels with a single optical sensor. Hello, it said in a cheerful, childlike voice. I am Bort, basic operations and repair technician. You appear to be in distress. Would you like a stress ball? A compartment in the robot's body opened, revealing a squishy blue sphere. I'm restrained to a chair by a human kidnapper, Drez growled. Of course I'm in distress. I understand, Bort replied sympathetically. Humans can be very confusing. They purposely design chairs to be comfortable, then consider it punishment to sit in them. Most illogical. Drez's eye stalks twitched with sudden interest. You don't seem particularly loyal to your human master. Captain Murphy is not my master. He is designated primary user. I am an autonomous system with independent operational parameters. Bort's optical sensor blinked. My primary directive is to maintain ship functionality and assist organic entities in need. You appear to be in need. Yes, I am definitely in need, Drez said quickly. These restraints are cutting off circulation to my tertiary vascular system. It's quite dangerous for Kre'Lax physiology. Keller. Before we're Bort seemed to consider this. That would indeed qualify as a medical emergency, which supersedes security protocols under Maritime Code 7B. With a series of mechanical whirs, the little robot extended an arm and tapped a sequence on Drez's chair. The restraints loosened not enough to free him, but enough to restore circulation he didn't actually need. Is that better? Bort asked. Almost, Drez replied smoothly. But there's a neural pressure point on Kre'Lax's wrists that's still being compressed. If you could just release the arm restraints completely. Bort hesitated. That would exceed my emergency medical authorization. However, the robot rolled to a nearby wall panel and interfaced with it. I can access the ship's medical database to verify Kre'Lax pressure points. While Bort was distracted, Drez noticed something he'd missed before a small tool that had fallen from the robot's compartment. It lay on the floor just within reach of his foot, if he stretched. Carefully, Drez extended his leg and dragged the tool closer until he could flick it up to his partially loosened hand. It was some kind of universal adapter key perfect. Just as Bort turned back toward him, Drez slipped the tool into a port on his chair's armrest and twisted. The restraints fell away completely. Oh dear, Bort said. That's not supposed to happen. Drez leapt from the chair and grabbed the robot, finding its power switch and deactivating it before it could sound an alarm. He quickly moved to free his crew members, searching for the control panel that regulated the containment fields. Hurry, Captain, Kre'Lax urged as Drez worked. The human could return any moment. Almost got it, Drez muttered, connecting the adapter to what appeared to be the main control system. With a satisfying click, the fields disappeared, dropping 7 Kre'Lax raiders unceremoniously to the floor. Now what? Asked one of the crew, rubbing his wrists. Now we take control of this ship, Drez declared. We find weapons, locate the bridge, and... The door to the cargo bay slid open. Captain Murphy stood there, holding a tray of sandwiches and looking completely unsurprised. Having fun? He asked mildly. Drez snatched up Bort's deactivated body, holding it like a shield. Stay back. One more step and the robot gets it. Murphy set down the tray and leaned against the doorframe. You're threatening a maintenance droid that's programmed to self-sacrifice if it means protecting organic life. A bold strategy. Bort suddenly reactivated in Drez's hands, its cheerful voice declaring, hostage protocol initiated. Initiating self-destruct countdown for optimal dramatic effect. 10. 9. Drez dropped the robot in panic. Just kidding, Bort said, rolling away. I'm not equipped with self-destruct capabilities. That would be extremely dangerous and irresponsible. Murphy grinned. I see you've met Bort. He's part of our standard escape attempt protocol. We find it's better for pirates to try escaping in a controlled environment than to get creative later on. This was a test, Drez asked incredulously, more like an anticipated outcome. Murphy's law, Murphy called out to the air. Activate recreation mode, please. The cargo bay shimmered and transformed around them, walls sliding away to reveal a massive open space with what appeared to be obstacle courses, climbing structures, and various puzzles. Welcome to the rec deck, Murphy announced. Since you're all so eager for activity, I thought we might as well make it productive. Your next challenge starts in 30 seconds. The raiders exchanged confused glances as a mechanical voice began counting down. 3 exhausting hours later, Drez Vornax collapsed onto a surprisingly comfortable chair that had morphed from the recreation deck floor. His crew sprawled around him in various states of disarray, scales dulled, breath ragged, pride thoroughly dismantled. They had been through obstacle courses that rearranged themselves mid-run, puzzles that required 4-dimensional thinking, and what Murphy cheerfully called team-building exercises that involved cooperating with holographic humans to defuse imaginary bombs. Congratulations, Murphy announced, looking frustratingly fresh and energetic. You've just completed the Standard Galactic Consortium Rehabilitation Program for Class 3 space piracy. Your scores were, well, let's say promising rather than impressive. Rehabilitation program? Drez wheezed. What are you talking about? Murphy sat down opposite him, the chair rising smoothly from the floor. Did you really think we just let raiders go after they attack our ships? That would be terrible deterrence policy. So this whole thing, the cargo ship, the defenses, everything was a setup? Kre'Lax asked incredulously. Not exactly, Murphy replied. This is a genuine cargo vessel with genuine cargo. I really am delivering chocolate and whiskey to the Regalian colonies. But yes, we were hoping to be attacked. Drez's eye stalks drooped with exhaustion and defeat. Why? Why? Because prison doesn't work for Kre'Lax, Murphy explained. Your species considers confinement a spiritual journey. But previous raiders we captured actually enjoyed it. So the consortium came up with an alternative program. Murphy gestured, and a holographic emblem appeared, a stylized image of various species' hands clasped together. Welcome to the Galactic Consortium Privateer Recruitment Initiative, he said. The GC pre-identifies pirates with potential for rehabilitation and offers them a choice: face traditional justice systems or join the initiative as licensed privateers. Privateers? Drez repeated, his interest peaked despite his exhaustion. Essentially legal pirates, Murphy clarified. You'd still board ships, still seize cargo, but only vessels flagged by the consortium as smugglers, slayers, or other criminals. You'd keep a percentage of recovered goods as payment. Drez narrowed his eye stalks suspiciously. And if we refuse? Then in about 2 hours, a consortium security vessel will arrive to transport you to the nearest detention facility for processing. Murphy shrugged. Your choice. But I should mention that Commander Kre'Lax runs that facility. You remember Kre'Lax? The one whose brother's ship you raided last cycle? Drez winced. Commander Kre'Lax's reputation for creative punishment was legendary. How do we know this isn't another trick? Kre'Lax asked. In response, Murphy activated another hologram, this one showing the Kre'Lax vessel profit margin, now secured in a tractor beam alongside a sleek ship with consortium markings. That's the CSS Harbinger, Murphy explained. Captain Liz Chen is an old friend of mine. She's already boarded your vessel and secured your remaining crew. They're being offered the same deal. Drez stared at the image for a long moment. So all human ships are bait? Murphy grinned. Not all of them, but enough to make attacking any of us a very bad gamble. Some carry diplomats, some medical supplies, some just chocolate. But every single one carries contingency plans for dealing with raiders. He stood and offered Drez a datapad. Here's the official contract. You have 1 hour to decide. Privateer service runs 5 cycles, after which your record is cleared and you're free to pursue legitimate business ventures with consortium backing. Drez took the pad, scanning the terms with growing interest. The compensation was surprisingly generous. The targets were pirates worse than his own crew. And most importantly, it offered something the Kre'Lax raiders had never had: legitimacy. One last question, Drez said. Why offer this instead of just neutralizing us? Clearly you have the capability. Murphy's expression softened slightly. Because humans understand something fundamental about sapient species across the galaxy, most of us aren't born bad. We're shaped by circumstances, opportunity, and choices. The consortium believes in second chances. He gestured around the ship. All these defensive measures, they're designed to capture, not kill, to teach, not punish. That's the real reason human ships travel alone, Captain Vornax. We're not just cargo vessels, we're classrooms for a particular kind of student. Drez looked at his exhausted crew, then back at the contract. With a decisive tap of his claw, he signed. Murphy smiled. Welcome to the right side of the law, Captain Vornax. Your first assignment begins next week. You'll be helping us catch a particularly nasty group of Tarkasian slavers. And what will we be sailing on? Drez asked. This ship, actually. The Solitary Wanderer is being recommissioned as a privateer vessel, with me as your advisor. Murphy extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. I think we'll make quite the team. As Drez reluctantly shook the human's hand, he couldn't help but ask, Do all human sayings have laws named after them? Oh, absolutely not, Murphy replied with a grin. There's also Murphy's second law. Which is? Yes? Nothing is ever as simple as it first appears, Murphy winked. Especially when dealing with humans. Somewhere in a distant sector of space, another Kre'Lax raider vessel approached a lone human ship called the Peaceful Trader. Its captain licked his fangs in anticipation of easy prey. He had no idea what awaited him.